Super Bowl 58 is finally here as the Kansas City Chiefs will do battle with the San Francisco 49ers for the NFL's 58th edition of the championship game in Las Vegas coming up this Sunday. The Chicago Bears get 3 former players into the Hall of Fame, NFL honors, and we'll have the Chicago Bulls who decided to stand pat. They won their last 2 games in a row. All that and a whole lot more, plus our Super Bowl prop bets and a whole lot more fun. I'm Sid, that's Lakina. Sacco City Sports, the Friday edition starts right now. Welcome to this fun-filled Friday edition of Sacco City Sports. We're live in the living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. I'm Sid the Kid, Sydney Brown. That's me. Lakina McGee over there. That is she. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You can follow my Lakina McGee on the Twitter, X, I can't go again, the IG.
Make sure you download that Sports Zone Chicago app wherever you get your apps. Please follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms on Facebook, Twitter, X, Instagram, and YouTube. Please subscribe to our podcast. We are at War Media Podcast. That's WARR Media, PODCASTS. We are on all podcast platforms, including the iHeartRadio app. And make sure you give War Media a follow at WARR Media on all social media platforms. And thank you very much in advance for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
We are on the pod, Jiggly Fun, and we have very definite opinions. If you have any definite opinions during our 2-hour extravaganza we call it Sports Talk Radio Show, you can always hit us up at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions or comments in the comments section. Lakina will get them up on the screen for you. But you decide to troll and or do something silly, dumb, or stupid, I've given Lakina full powers to give you fools to be a boot.
Toodles!
But before we begin, we must remind you that you can catch Sports Zone Chicago, not now, but right now, live in their living color on Roku TV. That's right. So celebrate with the squad and get with the program. Sports Zone Chicago is now available on Roku TV. If you already have a Roku television, just tap on the sports phone and download the Sports Zone Chicago app. If you don't have a Roku television, but you have some handheld devices laying around, iPhone, iPad, iTouch, your Chromebook, or your PC, just hit up the Google Play Store and download their Roku TV app and access Sports Zone Chicago through that avenue. So no more excuses. Celebrate with the squad and get with the program. Sports Zone Chicago is now available on Roku TV. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Live and on demand.
Anytime, anywhere.
And you know we will provide.
And we will be providing you. We're your place here on Sacco City Sports. Of course, we're gonna do hard with the first hour. We'll talk Bulls as they stand pat during the trade deadline, but I got a couple big wins this week. And of course, we'll talk about some of the big trades that went down in the NBA yesterday. Also, too, some college hoops, some big matches coming up this weekend. So stay tuned for that. And also, we're gonna have our second hour. It's gonna be our Super Bowl Power Hour. Al Sacco, co-host of the No Huddle Podcast for the 49ers. He'll join us at the top of the hour to talk the previous Super Bowl 58 between the 49ers and the Chiefs. And also, too, of course, we'll do our keys, prop bets, and a whole lot more. But first, Sid, the Bulls, as we all expected, we thought that the Bulls would stand pat during the trade deadline. Didn't make any big moves. I think I saw a stat where they haven't made a big move since since 2018. I think 2018 or 2019 was the last year they actually made a trade. That was the Laurie trade. So, and of course, after that, there really hasn't been much to say about that. But you know what? Look, they came back. Not pretty, but they got a good win against the Grizzlies. But they probably put up one of the biggest upsets of this week by beating the T-Wolves. So, Sid, what do you think? First of all, what do you think about the Bulls? Not a big surprise that they pep off to their week this week.
On the trade deadline, just as we expected, and we talked about it on this program, for the last couple of weeks. That we knew that the Bulls, bless you, we knew that the
Thank
Bulls
you.
that we knew that the Bulls weren't going to make any big moves because, as we said before, this current management staff were told by Bulls ownership to turn this thing around and make this team competitive. Technically, they've done that on paper, but when you look under the hood of the car, when you find so many other problems, that's where the whole issue lies, and that's where we're looking at with this Bulls team right now. Here's the thing, Lakina. All the pieces that we thought they were going to go like DeMar DeRozan, Andre Drummond, and Alex Caruso, as we told you that he had the most value. The Bulls put the trading price so high that other teams weren't willing to risk their futures to do that. So, and the Bulls told the rest of the league, you can have our players, but you're going to have them at our price, which was set so high. Other teams say, no, we'll try again over the summer. We're not going to mess with that now. Now, as far as their week is concerned, you mentioned they pulled out one of the biggest upsets on Tuesday against the Timberwolves at home. I know Karl-Anthony Towns and Anthony Edwards both did their thing, along with McDaniels as well, shooting lights up in three-point range. But Kobe White came through in the fourth quarter and in overtime to help bail out the Chicago Bulls. He just about did the same thing last night as the Bulls came back in the fourth quarter to beat a below-average Grizzlies team, certainly without John Morant and Desmond Bane. So the Bulls, if it wasn't for Kobe White, first and foremost, this Bulls team would be 1-1 at best right now.
Yeah, and I think, look, I know because I know AK did a presser. I wish we had a clip about that, but I mean, it kind of feels like, I don't want to say he seems broken. I don't know which was worse, the presser itself or the people's reactions to the presser, because it was just like, what y'all expect? I mean, they weren't gonna give up DeMar, they weren't gonna give up Caruso, they weren't gonna give up Vooch, so I don't know what y'all thought was gonna happen. I mean, for anybody that wants them to tear it down and start over, well, I mean, you want to be Orlando for the next decade? That doesn't happen then for the last decade. So, I mean, you might as well just stay the course. I know you talk about I know AK talked about the standings and people went nuts, but I mean, if you think about it, break it down, they're only about 3 games out from the 7th spot. So, I guess that's how we went by. But yeah, I mean, look, P. Will's going to be out for a little bit. We know Zach's done for the season. For me, I just think at this point, you just try to, finish out and just see where it goes. I mean, if you end up getting a 7 seed, okay, fine. You get a chance, perhaps actually get a chance to host a playoff playing game. So I think for me, I think Bulls fans need to take a step back and, get the emotion out of it and just be logical. And I think that's the problem. A lot of Bulls fans are not being logical here.
You're listening to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago on the hashtag Football Friday, the last one of this season. But right now, as Lakina mentioned at the top of the show, we're in our basketball power hour. We're discussing the Chicago Bulls right now. Lakina, as we said before, the Bulls, as you mentioned, they're right in the thick of this thing in the Eastern Conference, right in the middle of the pack, because look at the teams around that are terrible. Miami, Indiana, who had a tough loss last night at Golden State. We'll discuss that after the break. Look at Atlanta, Brooklyn, Orlando, as we mentioned on the last couple of shows. They're coming back down to earth a little bit, but they're still hanging around in the 8th, 9th spot. So the Bulls, as I said before, I'll say it again, you cannot wish for other teams to fall right to you. You got to go out and take care of your business. This week they have done that, but can they do that for the rest of the season from here on out? That question remains to be answered.
And that's really going to be the key here. And look, like I say, it'll be interesting with the Bulls. What's going to happen. Guys are going to have to step up. They're 2 games below 500 as we're recording this. They play. I mean, it's going to be very interesting to see what the Bulls decide to do, because I think, look, it's going to get a little bit. The schedule gets a little bit tougher for them. Look, they actually got out of the tougher part of their schedule, oddly enough. So. They're kind of at a point in their schedule where they can kind of get some wins here. They got the Magic. Then they got the Hawks. They go at Atlanta. Well, they got 3 games on the road. They got at Orlando, at Atlanta, and at Cleveland. So they could probably get maybe 2 wins of those 3. I mean, that Cavs. We all know how the Cavs figure when those two play each other. But they get a chance to get stack some wins here. Of course, they got the Celtics and the Pelicans. They got a nice win against the Clippers, the Pistons, and also the Cavs again. So yeah, they've got the schedule set up for them to kind of actually do some, not necessarily do some gems, but to kind of get some, like I said, get some wins here.
If you play around 500 or slightly above 500, you'll be okay. But just taking a look at that schedule, as you mentioned, Lakina, they always struggle against the Orlando Magic. The Magic has had the Bulls number over the last couple of years. Atlanta is slightly below them, in my opinion. They didn't trade Dejounte Murray. We'll get into that on the flip side of this break. But Atlanta is average at best. Is Murray and Trae Young, and if you throw in Clint Capella, okay. But outside of that roster's trash. So you would think you could at least split with Atlanta. If you can steal that win against Orlando tomorrow night, Saturday, I think this Bulls team will be okay. I think they should still be able to beat Atlanta twice, but the way this Bulls team has been consistently inconsistent all year long, Zach or no Zach LaVine, P. Will or no P. Will, it's kind of the way this team has been playing. So I wouldn't be surprised if we talk about a 1-2 stretch after these next 3 games, Lakina. But realistically, they should be 2-1.
Yeah, they really should. So we'll be interested to see what happens with that. As just like I see sports on Sports with Scott Lakina McGee, Steve Brown with you. Before we go to break, of course, we'll talk about the rest of the NBA. Now, which trades? Because some of the various trades that came down the pipe, especially in the last couple of days, which trade kind of got you thinking? Or was there a trade that okay, what what gave you any of those reactions?
The Dallas Mavericks picking up PJ Washington from the Charlotte Hornets in exchange for Grant Williams, who was on the Celtics last year. If you remember that series in the Eastern Conference Finals against the Miami Heat, Jimmy Butler gave him the business both physically and verbally. But I digress from that. But and the Charlotte Hornets get a first-round pick from the Dallas Mavericks as well. But I think PJ Washington is going to help out tremendously for the Dallas Mavericks, especially from the defensive standpoint. As we talked about Lakina, I'm not expecting PJ Washington to be that quote-unquote third guy offensively to help out Kyrie or Luka Doncic, but I expect PJ Washington to do the dirty work as far as playing defense in the interior, rebound, and add some scoring here and there. He did that with Charlotte over the last few years. I think he'll do that here for Dallas. Dallas is right in the thick of things. Even though they had a depleted roster last night, just like the New York Knicks, they did enough to win. So I think Dallas did themselves a service from a roster standpoint. Also, too, Kelly Olynyk going to Toronto, that I didn't expect. Utah's been playing well over the last month or so. They decided to part ways with him. They kind of left me scratching my head a little bit, so I was worried about that. But the Lakers didn't make a move, which most of us expected. They didn't make a move. Of course, the Bulls stood pat. And I really want to get into this on the flip side of this break. Patrick Beverley going from Philadelphia to Milwaukee.
Yeah. Let's talk about that after the break. But yeah, I think another trade that's getting a lot of pub is the Bron Bogdanovic trade. He went to, of course, I know Bulls fans were trying to hope they can get him to the Bulls, but he ended up going to the Knicks, of course, after OG Ovanavi had to have surgery, so he's going to be gone for a little bit. So I think that's probably why that they made that trade. We'll see if Bogdanovic can make a difference for the Knicks. I know that Brunson's been, struggling with that knee, that ankle injury, I should say. So that'll be interesting to see what he does there. I think the Washington trade, will definitely help Dallas, give him a little bit more depth. I think that's really what they need more than anything. So yeah, I think, look, nothing really. I mean, yeah, that last trade you talked about, that was a head scratcher, because Olynyk's been one of the reasons why the Jazz even had this kind of little, beef up a little bit. They've been playing pretty well lately, so I'm a little surprised that they decided to part with him. But let's talk about the Dejounte Murray trade, because non-trade, I should say, because I think Atlanta might have not made a good move, but we'll talk about it. And we will talk about that Murray trade that wasn't, and a whole lot more. Of course, we'll talk some more NBA, as the Pelicans got a nice win against the Clippers earlier this week, and also too, with selection stage just less than 5 weeks away, some big matches coming up for college hoops. So the Kingdom McGee, Steve Brown, would continue our basketball talk. This is Second City Sports right here on Sports of Chicago. Like I said, we'll have more round ball talk coming up right after this. Yeah, sorry, folks. We're doing it live here.
This year, my mom got me the perfect bag for back to school.
These colorful binders help me stay organized.
These headphones are just what I need for studying.
This
new sneakers are just what I need for the new year.
This jacket is a real must-have.
My parents got me the skateboard I wanted. It's pretty cool.
These scissors really come in handy in art class.
These colored pencils, too. These new socks? They can be a real lifesaver. I finally got my own phone to stay in touch with my mom.
Trisha's having a sleepover tonight. Can I go?
I wonder about Lucy's friends. What should I say? I know you're only 10, but one of these days a friend will offer you a drink. And alcohol at your age can lead to so many things. None of them good.
So can I go to the sleepover?
Lucy, I want you to promise me
I
something.
finished my homework.
Bigger promise. If there's any drinking, I want you to say, "No thanks, not my thing."
Mom.
I promise you. Your real friends won't care. Deal?
Sure.
Really?
I promise, Mom.
They really do hear you.
Did you pack your toothbrush?
For tips on how to start the talk, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov, a public service message from the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration.
Hey, this is Dr. J, and I listen to Sean and Maya in the morning.
Welcome back to Second City Sports on the hashtag Football Friday edition. We're live in the living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. I'm Sid. That's Lakina. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80. You can follow Miss Lakina McGee on the Twitter, X, at Keena McGee. Okay, there you go. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was like, sorry about that. You can follow me at Takita McGee on the Twitter, X at Kim's Grammy, and the IG.
We have less than 85 minutes left of this extravaganza. We call it Sports Talk Radio Show. If you have any questions or comments for us, you can always hit us up at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions or comments to the comment section. Lakina will get them up on the screen for you.
All right, so now let's talk about the one trade that didn't take place yesterday. Deontay Murray. I know that Dallas was looking at him, perhaps maybe Miami. I've heard maybe the Knicks wanted to try to go at him too, but Atlanta decides to keep him. So what do you think about that?
I'm not surprised at all. As we talked about before with trade deadlines in these professional sports, and the NBA is no exception. When you get desperate, you get close to the deadline, teams would get desperate, and there's other teams with commodities in high demand. They set the prices wherever they want. They want other teams to be suckers to give into what they have, but it's not happening this year for the NBA because there's a whole lot more buyers than there were sellers this year. So that's why we didn't see as many trades as we normally would. But I want to talk about that Patrick Beverley trade from Milwaukee to Philadelphia. As we talked about all year long, Lakina, whether the Bulls should blow it up or not. Obviously, they're not going to do it now since the trade deadline has passed. But as we said before, you talked about it before the season started. Drew Holiday was part of that Damian Lillard trade that ended him up in Boston. I'm talking about Holiday, and he's making that Celtics defense and that team look really good right now. Perhaps the best team in basketball. What was Milwaukee missing? As we told you all year long, if you listen to this show, a perimeter defender, and they got that in Patrick Beverley. Now, Doc Rivers says record right now is 1-5 ever since he's taken over as the Milwaukee Bucks head coach. You can guess how many points that the Milwaukee Bucks have given up in his 6 games, Lakina? Over 111 points per game. And so, as we said before, that's not going to get it done, and especially when it comes down to the playoffs, even in this high-powered basketball offensive era that we're living in right now, you still going to have to have a couple of people to stop. You still have to go to have a couple of defenders to stop people, and I believe the Milwaukee Bucks have that, or at least on the wing, with Patrick Beverley. Now, how much does he have left? I think he has some things left. You certainly don't need him on the offensive end. You just need him to lock down the top scorer, the top point guard. And I think he can bring that, and that value is impeccable to this Milwaukee Bucks team.
And he also gives them depth too, and I think that was another reason why they made that trade. So I mean, look, they're 1-5 since Doc took over, so maybe this will give them the spark that they need. But it'll be interesting to see what happens with that. But I think hopefully they can get it together. We'll see. But it's gonna get very interesting. Let's go through quickly for some of these scores from this week. Of course, Denver had a 9-0 run. They beat the Lakers 114-106. Jamal Murray had 29 points. AD had 32, leading the way for the Lakers, and but a nice win for the defending champs.
Yes, the Denver Nuggets were leading most of the way. Of course, the Lakers got back in it in the start of that fourth quarter, but they're going through injuries right now, as we talked about with Jerry Vanderbilt. They're perhaps their best defender, wing defender. He's gone for a while. And D'Angelo Russell, who's been playing very well, I might add, over the last month, averaging 24.5 points per game, shooting the ball from the outside at a 45% clip from 3. He was nowhere to be found last night. As we said before, Lakina, we'll say it again. Yes, LeBron and Anthony Davis both had to stay healthy, but who's going to be that third guy? And Austin Reeves, he tried his best last night, but it just wasn't enough from an overall team standpoint.
Absolutely. So we'll see what happens there. The Suns got a nice win over the Jazz. We talked about the Milwaukee loss to Minnesota 129-105. Anthony Edwards had 26 points. AJ Green had 27, leading away from Milwaukee. Of course, talk about the Bulls and the Grizz. We got Dallas being the Knicks. That's one of the reasons why the Knicks made that trade for Bogdanovic. But a nice win for Dallas. Cleveland.
And Jalen Brunson did not play last night.
Yeah, I know. He's been down with that ankle injury. Cavs beat the Nets. The Magic beat Wembanyama and the Spurs, and Golden State. Steph Curry hit a season-high 11 threes in their win over Indiana. They're trying to make a little bit of a run here. We're talking about the Warriors.
Yeah, and guess who showed up? Kinda. Andrew Wiggins for the Warriors. He had 11 points last night. We talked about that young guys and Brandon Podziemic and Jonathan Kuminga. Both those guys played well last night. Podziemic stepped into that starting lineup, starting next to Steph Curry in the backcourt. And we talked about Klay Thompson being benched earlier this week, and he wasn't there, at least on the court in their previous game against the Brooklyn Nets. So is the solution for the Warriors bringing Klay Thompson off the bench? I'm not sure, but Steve Kerr's going to have to try out something fast, because even though the Warriors are one game below 500, they'll be out of the play-in tournament. The season would end today. So the Warriors got to figure this out fast in a hurry. They're still without their veteran point guard, Chris Paul.
Well, Wiggins will also make a true. He led the way in the Warriors' upset over Philadelphia, 127-104. The day before on Wednesday, and the Pelicans got a nice win in Los Angeles against the Clippers. TJ McConnell had 35, but I think the big story here was that Paul George struggled from the field and from the 3-point line. So I think if you're the Clippers, look, it's better to have these games now than to have it like during a playoff game. So, he didn't have his best game this season. He admitted that, but look, it better that it happens now. So look, it happens.
Yeah, as we talked about in our last show, the Clippers were winners of 25 out of their last 30 games. It's just a stumble here. And I wouldn't be too worried if I was a Clippers fan. Tyronn Lue has done a masterful job all year, basically due to the health of Kawhi Leonard and Paul George. Russell Westbrook has been doing a great job coming off the bench. James Harden, you don't have to ask him to do too much. Just be a playmaker and take the shots that he needs to take within the flow of the offense, and you'll be okay. And that's what's happening to the Clippers. Like you said, Wednesday night was just a bump in the road. And I think the Clippers, as long as they stay healthy, I think they'll be okay. I think they'll be a dangerous team that you do not want to play come playoff time if they stay healthy.
Yeah, nothing to worry about there. Nothing to worry about here if you're a Clippers fan. Miami got a win against the Spurs. Detroit with a nice upset win over Sacramento. Jaden Ivey had 37 points, and they released Killian Hayes.
Go figure. But it's nice for Monty Williams. Congratulations to him. They actually won their last 2 games. That they got an upset win in overtime last night at Portland against Portland. So it looks like Detroit's finally starting to turn around a little bit. And so hopefully they can get some type of chemistry going and to establish themselves for next season. They're so far in the hole, but it's nice to have some nice morale if you're a Detroit Pistons fan.
Yeah, absolutely. They might look it up over there in the Motor City. So we'll see about that. Cleveland, no trouble with Washington. Boston pulled away from Atlanta. Toronto beat the Hornets. Now going into Tuesday's games, of course, the Suns got a nice win against the Bucks. Speaking of the 1-5 Bucks since Doc's taken over, Devin Booker had 32 points. Giannis had 34 in a losing effort there. Utah with a little mile upset over OKC. Of course, the day with upsets, because of course that was probably just as big an upset when the Bulls beat the T-Wolves. The Knicks outlasted the Grizzlies. The Heat beat Orlando. Dallas, no trouble with Brooklyn. And if you took the over on this one, you had a nice little Tuesday night as the Pacers beat the Rockets 132-129.
That's our good friend. Hope we can get him on this podcast soon. Jason Goff, formerly 6'7", to score here in Chicago. Now his on the host of the Ringers on his own podcast, The Full Go. The NBA 80s on coke.
Yeah, pretty much. Pascal Scala had 29 points, leading the way for them. Anything else NBA related before we go to these this weekend's games?
As I mentioned, like I said, the Warriors did beat the Nets on Monday, but Klay Thompson was not seen on the court at the end of the game, as we talked about before a couple of minutes ago. Do you bring him off the bench to help his confidence? We shall see. The Lakers, they continue their trip on the East Coast. They beat the Hornets the other night, 124-118. The Cavaliers beat the Kings, and the Mavericks. They beat the 76ers by 16. As we talked about with Philadelphia, with Joel Embiid having that surgery, hopefully they can get it back right before the end of the regular season. But if you're Philadelphia, you lost your last 2 games. You're going to be treading water until the end of the year. You hope that Embiid comes back, but if he doesn't, your season's in deep trouble.
Especially you got other teams like oddly enough, the Bulls right there. You had the Heat right there too, and also the Pacers. So it's a little bit of a log jam in the Eastern Conference. So at the bottom part of it after the 5th seed. So gonna be very interesting to keep an eye on there. Going to this weekend's games tonight, Friday, you got Atlanta and Philadelphia. That's the first game of the NBA TV doubleheader. Of course, ESPN has other TV commitments, so no doubleheader for them tonight. Washington and Boston at 6:30. You had Houston and Toronto at 6:30. Milwaukee, we'll see if P-Bev plays. They host the Hornets. Denver and Sacramento low-key be a good game. And the second game of the NBA TV doubleheader, you got the Pelicans and the Lakers. That's 9:30.
Yeah, Zion versus LeBron and Anthony Davis. That should be a fun game to watch tonight. Tomorrow, Saturday, your schedule looks like this. The Bulls will face the Orlando Magic on the road at 6 o'clock. The Thunder will face the Dallas Mavericks in Dallas. That's a Saturday afternoon NBA TV game. That's at 2:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. The rest of the Saturday schedule looks like this. The Pistons are at the Clippers for a Saturday matinee. The Spurs are at Brooklyn to take on the Nets. We have Memphis going to Charlotte two bad teams there. Philadelphia, Washington, Houston, traveling to Atlanta to take on the Hawks. The Pacers and the Knicks, that should be a sneaky good game. Hopefully Jalen Brunson will be back for that one. That his status will be up in the air. Cleveland at Toronto. The Saturday night game on ABC will feature the Phoenix Suns at Golden State to take on the Warriors. The Steph Curry versus Kevin Durant. And we'll have the New Orleans Pelicans traveling to Portland to take on the Blazers in the Rose City.
If you're ABC, you're feeling pretty good because both these teams are playing well. So that should be a fun one over in the Bay Area tomorrow night. And only 2 games for Super Bowl Sunday. Very early on, you got the 1:00 game on ABC. You got the Celtics and the Heat. The Heat are playing a little bit better. So, we'll see what happens there. And 2:00 should be another sneaky good one here. You got Sacramento and OKC. Right there, to think of it in the Western Conference, with the Clippers now, the Suns are right there. So yeah, it's gonna be a log jam, that Western Conference. So it's getting a little crowded there up at the top of the West. But we all thought that was gonna happen. So it's now happening.
Yep, and don't forget Oklahoma City picked up Gordon Hayward from Charlotte as well. I know he hasn't played much at all this year. I'm talking about Hayward, but he definitely gives the Oklahoma City Thunder some much needed veteran presence and some more outside shooting as well.
Definitely. So we'll see if we can make a difference right there. And it has a little bit of playoff experience too. So maybe that's probably why maybe they help out to get into playoffs. And that's just over this weekend in the NBA.
You're listening to Second City Sports on Sports on Chicago. Sid Lakina hanging out here with you on the hashtag Football Friday. We'll have our Super Bowl preview coming out with Mr. Al Sacco from the 49ers Red Zone podcast, No Huddle. We'll preview the big game, the 50th edition of the NFL Championship game between the San Francisco 49ers and the Kansas City Chiefs. But right now, we're continuing our basketball power hour. Let's head into the hardwood on the college side. Lakina, we'll start out locally here as the Northwestern Wildcats get a big win at home. As we told you on our last show on Monday, this could be an elimination game in terms of seeding and coming up with the Big Ten tournament within the next 3 or 4 weeks or so. Northwestern gets a huge win at home by 12 points, beating Fred Hoiberg's Nebraska Cornhuskers 80-68.
Yeah, they really needed this one after what happened against Minnesota on last Sunday. And also, too, with Nebraska, unfortunately, they still don't have a win on the road in the Big Ten. So
0-7 now.
Yeah, if anything keeps them going to the tournament, I think they're kind of like right there near the bubble. But if you're Fred Hoiberg, you want to try and get you need a road win to kind of like at least get a couple wins on the road to kind of beef up that resume to kind of balance out some of the home teams. But look, a nice win for Western. Blue Buoy led the way with 22 points. So and also too, Nebraska struggled from the 3-point line, so that unfortunately didn't help them. So a nice little bounce back win for the Wildcats.
And don't forget Barnheiser as well contributed with 14 points coming off the actually in the starting lineup for the Northwestern. Also, too, you got Lane Borg who contributed with 18 as well. You had balanced scoring throughout that starting 5 for Chris Collins and crew for the Northwestern. So, as you mentioned, they shot the ball well from the outside at a 40% clip from 3, while Nebraska struggled from the outside. Also, too, rebounding, Northwestern had a +7 edge at 36-29. And also, that was key. And the Wildcats stepped up defensively, creating 17 turnovers from the Nebraska Cornhuskers.
Yeah, that basically killed them there. So, so a nice win for Mouse Beckler from Northwestern. Clemson got only a second ever win against North Carolina. On Tuesday, a nice win for North Carolina to kind of, for Clemson, I should say, kind of like, give a little bit of bump to North Carolina. They were on a roll lately. UConn took care of business against Butler. Houston, no trouble with OK State. Baylor beats Texas Tech. Iowa State beat Texas. South Carolina quietly moving up the ranks. They had no trouble with Ole Miss. Kentucky with a nice bounce back win against Vanderbilt. So did Dayton against St. Joe's. Oklahoma beat BYU. Utah State. Nevada actually beat Utah State. San Diego State, no trouble with Air Force, and New Mexico, no trouble with that high altitude in Wyoming.
Yeah, going back to last night, Penny Hardaway's crew, the Memphis Tigers, they got a comeback win last Saturday against Wichita State at home. They followed up with a big win on the road at Temple last night, beating the Owls 84-77. David Jones, who hit the game winner last Saturday, he chipped in with another 23-point effort, and he also grabbed 10 rebounds.
to stay right there in that striking distance in the American Conference. Going back to Wednesday, Auburn got their revenge against Alabama at home. Michigan with a nice win against Wisconsin. I know which Michigan has not had a good year this year, but beating Wisconsin, I'm sure that that makes Michigan fans feel a little bit better. Duke, no trouble with Notre Dame, and Tennessee, no trouble with LSU.
Yes, and a couple other scores to pass along as we go through the Tuesday schedule. Rutgers get a big win over Maryland, 56-53. You mentioned South Carolina with the upset over Ole Miss, 68-65. Yeah, Clemson, you mentioned also too. They beat North Carolina. They came as a shock. You know, Northern Illinois, I know they've been having a bad year, but they get a rare victory over Miami of Ohio, 62-59. So congratulations to the Huskies in DeKalb. So go Huskies to that school for a couple of years. So we still have a little place for them. Like I said, UConn took care of Butler, 71-62. They're the defending national champions. I'm not saying they're going to do it again, Lakina, but the way that this college basketball season is turning out, Lakina, I wouldn't be surprised if they did it again. Most people would, but I wouldn't. That's just me.
Well, I think last year, and I think if you ask a lot of UConn fans, they were kind of surprised that they ended up winning it last year.
Yeah,
they got hot.
yeah.
They got hot late. So this team's actually even better than last year's team, oddly enough. So yeah, they're showing you why too. Number one consistently. Also, Providence with a nice win on the road against Creighton. You know, Creighton, that's not an easy place to play right there in Omaha. So a nice win for Providence. There and going into this weekend's tonight's matchup.
Real quick, Lakina, real quick. I don't want to cut you off, but let's give Darnell Valentine some love at Loyola University in Chicago. They got a big win over George Mason on Wednesday, 85-79. So hopefully we get more than Illinois and Northwestern into the NCAA tournament to represent the state of Illinois. Loyola Chicago could be the third team from this great state to represent the land of Lincoln in the NCAA tournament. Let's see if they can keep it going.
Yeah, they're right behind Dayton in the A10 standings, so they could perhaps be a bid stealer. So we'll see what happens to that. Now, speaking of Dayton, going into tonight's game, they go on the road against VCU at 6:00 on ESPN2, also on ESPN Plus. San Diego State against Nevada, that's going to be on CBS Sports Network. San Jose State and Colorado State on FS1 at 8:30. And going into tomorrow's matchup, some big ones here coming up. Yep. UConn and Georgetown at 11 a.m. That's on FS1. Wisconsin home with a big bounce back from their loss at Michigan. They continue on the road at Rutgers at 11 a.m. on Big Ten Network. Alabama and LSU at 11 a.m. on ESPN. Speaking of Loyola, Chicago, they face George Washington on ESPN Plus. Clemson and Syracuse, they're on ESPN2 at the same time. Western Illinois hosts UT Martin on ESPNU. They're kind of right there in the thick of that Summit League Conference. They can perhaps maybe get a bid in that conference tournament too in a few weeks. So to look out for there. Creighton hoping to bounce back from the loss to Providence. They go on the road against Xavier at 11:30 on Fox. South Carolina hosts Vanderbilt at noon on SEC Network, I should say.
At go ahead.
No, you just gonna say. I think you were just gonna say it. Go ahead.
Yeah, Boston College will travel to Cameron Indoor Stadium to play the Duke Blue Devils, who are ranked number 9 right now in the country. That's at 1:00 tomorrow, Saturday on ESPN. At the same time on Big CBS, we'll have number 10, the Fighting Illini, as Illinois will travel to East Lansing to take on Tom Izzo's Michigan State Spartans. Michigan State has recovered nicely. They have a record of 14-9, where Illinois has a 17-5 record. Big game for both teams. Let's see if Illinois can win a tough game on the road. They've done well there recently, but we all know around this time of year, Tom Izzo's teams usually has his guys ready to prime for the Big Ten tournament and the bigger tournament in March.
Also, Michigan State really needs to win to kind of freshen their resume. So being Illinois, and Illinois is still fighting with Purdue for that top spot in the Big Ten. So big game, big game there. TCU and Iowa State at 1:00 on ESPN2. As we go into later afternoon games, Providence at Butler at 1:00 on FS1. All right, gotta go all the way down here to the late games. West Virginia, Texas on the Longhorn Network. Let's see my
we'll have number 3 North Carolina at the University of Miami. That's at 3:00 on ESPN, the big ESPN tomorrow. And also at the same time on CBS, number 17 Kentucky will host Gonzaga. Call me crazy, the way that both teams are playing lately. It looks like they're going in opposite direction. It looks like Kentucky has been improving, sort of. We talked about the struggles of Gonzaga all season long. I think this is more of an elimination game for them. If Gonzaga loses this one, you're going to have to win that conference tournament to qualify for this year's NCAA tournament. That's just my opinion.
No, I think you're right. And Kentucky's been playing very well lately. Gonzaga, I don't know who would schedule this in the middle of the year, but I don't know. Right. But that is weird. But but it should be an entertaining game nonetheless at 3:00. Same time on ESPN2, you got Houston, number 5 Houston going on the road against Cincy. Texas Tech, they've lost a couple in a row, hoping to bounce back against Johnny Dawkins and his Golden Knights of UCF. Murray State hosts Evansville. That's on the Old Missouri Valley Conference action. Chicago State against South Carolina State. On FS20, you got Ohio State hosting Maryland. We go to the nightcaps.
Yeah, St. John's, Rick Pitino's squad will travel to Milwaukee to take on number 7 Marquette. That's at 5 p.m. Central Standard Time on FS1. We have Drake, no, not the rapper, Drake University versus Bradley, representing the state of Illinois in the Missouri Valley Conference. That's at 5 p.m. on ESPNU and ESPN+. Going into the prime time, we have Michigan at Nebraska, 5:30 Central Standard Time on the Big Ten Network. Illinois State will take on Southern Illinois at 6 o'clock on ESPN+. That's a big game for the Southern Illinois Salukis as they try to keep up as well in that Missouri Valley. And going to the prime time schedule, Indiana versus number 2 Purdue. That's at 7 p.m. on the Big Fox Network. Gus Johnson and Jim Jackson on the call there. And we'll also have my schedule could prop up. We have Kansas State at number 23 BYU. That's at 9 p.m. on ESPN2.
Yeah, Kansas State with that big win against Kansas. They're 11-0 in overtime, so don't face Jerome Tang and his guys will go to overtime with them. So because they're undefeated. So yeah, 11-0 this season. Speaking of Kansas, they host Baylor at 5 o'clock on ESPN. That should be a good one there. I know that place is gonna be rocking as usual with Fog Allen, Tennessee, and Texas A&M on ESPN. CBS Sports Network, we got UNLV against New Mexico. That should be a fun one there at the pit. Boise State against Utah State. That's at 9 o'clock on FS1. Arizona and Colorado at 9 on ESPN. And San Diego, the Fighting Sea Lavas, they face Pacific. That's on ESPN Plus. And I think there was a couple of games. Let me get up here. A couple games for Super Bowl Sunday as we go to break. I know our buddy Al's coming up a little bit, but Florida Atlantic against Wichita State at 11 a.m. on ESPN2, Seton Hall, and Villanova. That's going to be on CBS Sports Network. Northwestern hosts Penn State. That's going to be on Big Ten Network, so they got to keep it going there. I'm talking about with Northwestern. And your guy, Penny Hardaway's Memphis Tigers, they face Tulane at 1 o'clock on ESPN2 with a little American Athletic Conference action.
All right, so that's your schedule for this weekend in college basketball. Stay tuned for more sports and more fun as we get into our Super Bowl 58 preview with Mr. Al Sacco from the 49ers Red Zone podcast, No Huddle. You're listening to Sports Zone Chicago.
No, I don't know, though. I'm scared. You're so
Do you know that you're in my lane? No, not at all. Are you not paying attention? Are you texting? I was just checking in with my mom. I was telling her that I thought we'd be home by 6. It's okay. There's enough time. Just pay attention. I'm not even halfway through my text. There's no way. I'm not even going to look up. My babies are in the car. You have to pay attention. It's just supposed to be a quick text. I'm so sorry.
Hi, I'm Tom Brady, the director of DODEA. September is National Suicide Prevention and Awareness Month. The simple act of reaching out and caring for those in our communities is something we all can do. Just being there for someone you care about can be a tremendous first step in getting them access to confidential resources and support that they need. It only takes one person and one small act and 1 minute to make a difference. Let's make a difference.
Move it!
Many will hear the calling. Few will earn the title. United States Marine. The few, the proud, the Marines.
Welcome back to hour number 2 of Second City Sports, #Football Friday, the Power Hour. Now, we're live in the living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago, along with Miss Lakeem McGee, which is she. I am Sydney Brownhead, that's me. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter, X, and the IG at CK80. Once again, it's CK80, that's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You can follow my Keenan McGee on the Twitter, X, and Keenan's going to IG.
We have less than an hour left of this extravaganza we call a Sports Talk Radio Show. If you have any questions or comments for us, especially for our next guest, you can always find us at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions and comments in the comment section. Lakina will get them up on the screen for you. And just a daily reminder, you can catch us right now, live and on demand at Sports Zone Chicago on Roku TV.
All right, Sid, as we kick off our Super Bowl 58 Power Hour, we're going to be a great guy, our new friend to help us preview. He's the co-host of the No Huddle Podcast for the 49ers. And look, if you listen to it, anywhere where you get your podcast and visually too on YouTube. So let's welcome our new friend, Mr. Al Sacco. Hey, Al, what's up?
How you doing, guys? How are you? Thanks for having me.
How are you?
Good, thank you.
All right.
Yeah.
Now, you go ahead, sis. Sorry.
No, but before we get started, Al, we all know that the 49ers have come up short these last couple of years of getting to the big game. They're finally here now. What was your expectations before the season started? Was the Super Bowl a bust, or did you expect another disappointing ending at the altar?
I think it had to be Super Bowl or bust, because when you look at this team, just the Niners in general have been in the NFC Championship game 7 of the last 13 years. They don't have any titles to show for it. The Shanahan era 49ers, you were 4 out of the last 5 years, the NFC title game. They lose the Super Bowl in 2019. They seem to come up short every year for whatever reason. And, it's been kind of gut-wrenching losses. And this year, as you look at the core group that they have, the window is not going to be open that much more for Trent Williams and George Kittle and Eric Armstead and just the guys that have been around for a really long time. Even Christian McCaffrey's in his late 20s. So you maybe have, with everybody, another year or two. George Kittle even said it himself at the beginning of the season. They understand that with contracts and things, it's with the core, the time is getting shorter and shorter. So I think the Niners knew this year, they had a mission. They knew this was the season to get the Super Bowl win, and that's where they are. So yeah, even if it's tough to say right now the season's a quote unquote success unless they win the Super Bowl, they kind of have to get it done at this point. They've been knocking at the door forever. They have to finish the job.
Yeah, they haven't won one in like 30 years almost.
Mhm.
So it's kind of weird how that's been that long. But do you think Kyle Shanahan feels a lot of pressure because we think about his dad. His dad has 3 of these, and of course, he and Christian's father Ed. They won multiples together. So do you think that a lot of
Mhm.
pressure on him to kind of get this done?
Yeah, well, I don't know if Kyle himself, at least he's not saying publicly that he feels the pressure, but when you look at where he is, this is a huge legacy game for him. We were talking about this on our most recent show. He's 8-3 in the playoffs. He has the highest winning percentage of any active coach in the playoffs. And he's one of 4 active coaches now that Belichick and Carroll aren't coaching with multiple Super Bowl appearances. It's McVay, Tomlin, and Andy Reid are the other ones. There's been 26 head coaches to appear in multiple Super Bowls in the history of the NFL. Only 4 of them have not won at least one Super Bowl. So Kyle would be the 26th. So this is again, a lot of pressure on him to get that Super Bowl. And I think if he gets it, he goes into the next stratosphere of coaches. If he has, with the success he's had in the playoffs and in the regular season, with him being a champion, with him having that ring, he goes to me in the top 2 or 3 coaches in the league. And you can even maybe start talking, is he a Hall of Fame head coach, with a championship, but he needs that title, I think, to get there. So I think it's a huge game for him. Whether he feels the pressure, I'm not sure, but I think legacy wise, yeah, for sure. It's huge for Kyle.
All right, let's start out with the preview against the Kansas City Chiefs. Of course, it all starts with superstar quarterback Patrick Mahomes. I just saw the stat on ESPN. I don't know if you caught it, but for the first half of the season, the 49ers dialed up the blitz coverage, but they dialed it back for the last half of the season. On the opposite, the quarterback pressure, they were down through the first 10 weeks of the season, but the quarterback pressures increased throughout the second half of the season, including the playoffs. So all I'm saying is, how would you defend Patrick Mahomes? Would you? I'm not going to say you're going to. I'm sure you're not going to blitz him the majority of the time. But what kind of schemes and coverages would you give to Patrick Mahomes, especially now that he has a running game with Isaiah Pacheco?
Yeah, I'm not sure there is a way to really defend Mahomes. I mean, he doesn't have the talent around him that he's had in previous years, but he's kind of changed the way that he's played, where he's just managing the game more. He's got this great defense. So during the regular season, I think I saw a stat where he didn't have back-to-back games without a turnover. And now he hasn't turned the ball over in forever, it seems like, at least not in the playoffs. So he's changed the way that he's playing. He's being more of a game manager almost, and just letting the defense kind of help them win games. But in terms of defending them, the Niners had a lot of trouble stopping the run. So that's the first thing. They have to stop the run in this game. I would bracket Kelsey, double team Kelsey, and then put their best corner, Mooney Ward, maybe on Rashee Rice, and try to make those other guys beat you, because they don't have much else other than those 2 in the passing game. But, Mahomes is Mahomes. He's impossible to sack. He's going to extend plays. So it's always scary with him on the other side of the ball. We saw it in Super Bowl a few years ago. Like, the Niners defense dominated that game. And then the last 3 series, Mahomes got it going, and boom, there's 21 points like that. So he's really difficult to defend. I hope they can get their pass rush going, just at least make him a little bit uncomfortable. But I don't think there's a defense for Patrick Mahomes.
Well, slow him down, at least. I think that's going to be the key here, Hal. But let's go to the Niners offense now. Of course, we know Brock Purdy, Christian McCaffrey, of course, Debo, and Brandon Ayuk, and George Kittle, and the rest of that group. Now, do you see the 49ers trying to kind of mix up a little bit? Use maybe Elijah Mitchell a little bit here and there. Maybe bring in use Juwan Jennings, probably not just as like a like a decoy, but at least probably as like kind of a blocker. So do you think they're kind of going to mix it up a little bit to kind of confuse the KC defense?
I think this is going to be a McCaffrey game. With the way that KC struggles against the run and 21 personnel, and the Niners are so good with that base package with Juszczyk and Kittle and Debo, Ayuk, and McCaffrey, I think you're going to see a lot of Christian McCaffrey in this game. I think the Niners are going to run right at them. Also, when you can get the Chiefs in their base defense, which they struggle a little bit more. The Chiefs also play man-to-man a lot, and the Niners have been terrific against man-to-man this year. They're one of the best man-to-man team offenses, and I'm trying to find that. I had a stat. So the Chiefs have played man coverage on 52% of opposing dropbacks, which is the 5th highest rate of any team. And on third down, it jumps to over 60%. And the Niners have averaged an EPA of 0.39 per play versus man-to-man defense this year, which is the best other than the 2020 Packers in the last decade. So that bodes well for the Niners. If Spagnuolo likes to blitz, Purdy's been phenomenal against the blitz this year. Against free rushers, he has a QBR of over 80, and league average is 44 in that for that stat. So he's been really good there. But what would worry me a little bit is because the Chiefs defense is so good, they've only given up more than 21 points 3 times all season. If they start to disguise coverages, Purdy is susceptible to a couple throws a game where you're like, where is he throwing the ball? It was almost picked off or whatever. So if they disguise coverages and get a couple turnovers, that would worry me. But I really think the Niners are going to attack them on the ground. McCaffrey's going to touch the ball as much as they possibly can. They'll get Debo involved in the mix in the running game. And that's how I see them attacking in this game.
We're hanging out with our new friend, Mr. Al Sacco from the 49ers Web Zone podcast, No Huddle. He's hanging out here with us right here on Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago on our hashtag Football Friday edition, previewing Super Bowl 58 between the Chiefs and the 49ers. Al, of course, with the 49ers, we cannot talk about their offense without talking about the star quarterback, Brock Purdy. Of course, he hasn't looked that great so far through these playoffs, but in the fourth quarters of the 2 playoff victories against the Packers and against the Lions, he's made the big plays when he has to. Going into this game against Kansas City, what's your confidence level in Mr. Purdy right now?
It's definitely high. I think you have to remember he's a second-year quarterback, and he's going to go through ups and downs. It happens for any second-year QB. He just happens to be doing it right now in the playoffs because there's been some adjustments for him from defenses towards him. So it's under a microscope. But what's impressed me about him the most is he did not play well against Green Bay, and he tends not to play well with a wet ball. But when he needed to be great in the last drive, he got it done. And in the first half, the whole team looked disjointed in the first half against Detroit. But then in the second half, when he had to come back, I thought he was phenomenal in the second half. So my confidence level is high in him. Again, there tends to be 1 or 2 passes that are a little dicey. He's got to avoid that. But other than that, he's got his head on his shoulders. He's really confident. The team has confidence in him. And the difference with him, where they were with Jimmy Garoppolo, is Purdy's really good on off-schedule plays. So when the pocket breaks down, Purdy's really good at extending a play, making a play where there wasn't one, scrambling, getting more yards that way. So that's been the difference with the 49ers offense. And also he'll take more shots downfield and hits more shots downfield than they did previously. So my confidence is high in him, man. And even if he has a rough game, again, he's a second-year QB. I think he's going to have a long, really good career regardless.
Kind of to piggyback off that question, does he kind of feel the pressure, or is he just like, you know what, I'm just enjoying the moment, and he doesn't seem very nervous, or maybe he's nervous on the inside. So do you feel like he has the nerves? Because I know there are people that are saying that, well, is this guy really good? Will this prove whether or not he's really good? So what's your synopsis of all this?
He has times where there's games where he'll start out a little bit slow, where it takes him just to get in the groove of the game. I don't know if it's nerves or him just getting used to the flow of the game, but he seems like he's got his head on his shoulders. He seems really confident, and I don't worry about his nerves because of what we've seen in the last 2 playoff games. Backs against the wall in both games, and he was calm, he was cool, he brought his team back, and they end up winning really 2 games they probably should have lost. So I think he's going to be confident. I think the team is really confident in him. He's a special kid. He really is, to come out and do what he's done as a second-year player and a 7th round draft pick, last pick in the draft. He's really got his head on straight.
I want to go back to the defense, Al. Of course, with the big name headliners and Nick Bosa and Eric Armstead. I really like Fred Warner, the linebacker. Of course, he's been named All-Pro 3 times, but call me crazy, but I still don't think he gets the respect that he deserves. I think he's a key ingredient next to Nick Bosa for that 49ers defense. Talk to us about the importance of Fred Warner in that 49ers linebacking core.
Yeah, it's huge. And I think you see this similar thing with the Ravens, where there's not a lot of emphasis on off-the-ball linebackers in the NFL. But the teams that have great ones, Fred Warner, and, the Ravens have Patrick Queen and Roquan Smith, and obviously the Niners have Dre Greenlaw as well. Those guys that can take away the middle of the field in the passing game, that can make plays in the running game, that fly from sideline to sideline, they make a huge difference, and they take things away for the offense. And yeah, I don't think Warner gets enough credit nationally. Everybody will say, like, yeah, he's great, and he's an all-pro, great. And then that's kind of the end of the conversation. I feel like there needs to be more emphasis on how great he's been. There have been some tackling issues lately with the Niners team as a whole, and Warner a little bit too. So they have to shore that up. But, Warner's a great player. He's really the engine that makes a lot of the defense go. And I agree with you. I think nationally he deserves more credit. I did see he had a vote or 2 for Defensive Player of the Year, which I was glad to see. But it's tough. Sometimes it's tough for off-the-ball linebackers to get that recognition because they don't have the sacks or the interception. You kind of have to really watch the game to see the impact that they make.
let's stay with the defense with Charvarius Ward. I mean, he was on that KC team who beat the 49ers, to win that Super Bowl about 4 years ago. So does he kind of have revenge on his mind, and how do you think of a big factor he's going to be in it on Sunday's game?
I'm interested to see what they do with him again, if they put him on Rashee Rice or they just kind of keep him on his side, which they typically do. So, but he's been great for them this year, and so has Zamanor Lenore on the other side. The outside corners have been terrific for the Niners, and I expect them to continue to do that, both Ward and Lenore in this game. Where the Niners have been struggling is with the nickel package right now. So what they're doing is they put Lenore inside, who does great, but then Ambry Thomas goes to the outside, and Ambry's been getting picked on. He's given up 6 completions on 8 targets for 86 yards in the playoffs, and two long pass interference calls as well. So that's where I think the Chiefs are going to pick on is Ambry Thomas. I don't worry about Ward or Lenore. I expect them to have strong games, but are the Chiefs going to go after Ambry Thomas and try to get some plays there? That's where my concern would be in the passing game.
We're halfway home with Al Sacco. He's the co-host of the 49ers Red Zone No Huddle Podcast. He's hanging out here with us right here on the hashtag Football Friday edition of Second City Sports or in Sports Zone Chicago. City LaKina here with you, previewing the big game between the 49ers and Chiefs. Al, we talk about the big names in Brock Purdy and Brandon Ayuk and Deebo Samuel on the offensively. Of course, we just discussed Fred Warner and Nick Bosa on the defensive side. Which players should 49ers fans and NFL fans in general look for on Sunday? Who in your opinion, could be that unsung hero that no one's talking about right now? Oh, I didn't know that person could be that difference maker. Who could be that difference maker that come out of nowhere to make the big play on either side of the ball?
Juwan Jennings is a guy that maybe nationally people don't know about, but he's Niners' third receiver, and he makes a lot of big catches for them, especially on third down. They call him 3rd and 1 because he does so many big plays on third down. And he had a couple big catches in this postseason as well. And there's been games where the offense isn't moving, and all of a sudden Jennings comes through with, a 15-yard catch or a big third down completion. So he's a guy that I would look for. And the Chiefs do struggle against third wide receivers. So he's somebody who, while he may not be on the field a ton, when he is there, he can make a couple big catches. And it may not be a touchdown. You may look at the box score and it's 2 catches for 27 yards. But they were huge catches that extended drives, or a big play to get the momentum going when they needed it. He's a guy I think that fans should look out for.
How big of a factor do you think George Kittle's going to be? I know you said maybe a McCaffrey game, but what kind of big plays do you think Kittle can make?
You never know with the Niners because they have so many mouths to feed, and you can have a game where Kittle goes off where he has 2 touchdowns, or a game where he has 2 catches. You just kind of never know. So I think, and this is just my opinion, I don't have any insight, no idea. I'm sure nobody has any idea, but I think it's going to be a heavy McCaffrey Deebo game. That's kind of my opinion of it, because Snead is really good on the outside. He can take Ayuk away. And with Kittle, there's just, again, some games where he's really involved and some games where he's not. But I just feel like this is a game the Chiefs defense is so good. I was listening to a podcast today, and they were talking about it's almost like the Niners are almost like a basketball team where you have just a really good player. You're like, just put the ball in his hands and let him go to the basket. That's how it kind of is with Deebo and McCaffrey, where if yards are hard to come by, you just put the ball in their hands and let them make plays. So I feel like those are the 2 guys that are going to have the big games come Sunday.
We talked about stopping Patrick Mahomes early, and we don't know if you can. We saw what he did last year against Philadelphia. He did that on a bad ankle, so him healthy, that makes him that much more dangerous. But how can you stop Travis Kelce? Because we at times this year he looked unstoppable, and then for whatever reason he only has 1 or 2 catches through the next 4 weeks. But he's been coming on throughout this postseason. How will the 49ers defense try to stop him?
Well, yeah, it's interesting because Kelce looked old for a lot of the year. He didn't look like himself. He looked like he was maybe getting up there, and then he took week 18 off, and he's found the fountain of youth. He's been great in the playoffs. So yeah, I don't know, again, with Mahomes, I don't know if you could necessarily stop Kelce, but again, what I would do is bracket him. I would double him, just try to take him away as much as possible and make the other guys beat you. Whether you put Lenore on him and have Warner out there, you have a safety bracketing and whatever you're going to do. But I think he's a guy you have to double, but also he's a guy who's probably going to get his catches. He's probably still you're going to look up and he's going to have 5 or 6 catches, but just make sure they're not huge catches. Make sure you keep them underneath stuff. That's probably the best way to defend it.
How big of a factor do you think the O-line's going to be? Because we have our good friend Randy Cross, of course, former 49er, won 3 Super Bowls. I remember he said, we had him on a few weeks ago, that the O-line is going to be a big factor to the 49ers going far. So how do you think the O-line is going to slow down against Chris Jones and that front 7 of the Chiefs?
That's a worry for me. not Trent Williams. Trent Williams is great, but other than that, we've seen the middle get pushed back a little bit at times in this playoffs. And McKivitz does struggle at times on the right side, and they may line up Chris Jones out there, or maybe that's where Spagnuolo is going to send a free rusher on that side as well. So that does worry me a little bit. I feel like they're going to hold up in the run game, but in pass protection, are they going to push the pocket? Are they going to force Purdy to be uncomfortable? Definitely a concern for me, and definitely a place where I think the Chiefs can expose the Niners a little bit on that right side.
And how big do you think Javon Hargrave and Eric Armstead? How you think? Or do you think there will be big factors in trying to stop the Chiefs' running game, trying to stop Isaiah Pacheco? How big of factors that both Armstead and Hargrave are going to be in stopping the Kansas City running game on Sunday?
Well, they have to be, because the Niners haven't been good against the run. More on the edge. People have been getting the edge on them. Chase Young has been struggling a lot. But Hargrave's more of a pass rusher. And traditionally, he's not a great run stopper. I think when people signed him, they're like, oh, we have another DeForest Buckner level player. He's not as complete of a player as Buckner is. And I think you're seeing that in the running game. But Armstead's had a great year. Armstead's another guy where if you look at the stats, you don't see how good he really is and how much of an impact he makes. But they're going to have to play big to stop the run. The whole defensive line is going to have to play big. Until Bosa had a couple sacks in the NFC Championship game, they hadn't been getting home at all. So this is a game where the defense, specifically the D-line, has to play a full 60 minutes.
Let's go away from the Super Bowl for a second. Of course, Patrick Willis leads a gang of 7 that goes into the Pro Football Hall of Fame later this summer. I think it's long overdue. I mean, he's probably one of the best 49ers ever. Tell us a little bit more about Patrick Willis's great Hall of Fame resume.
Yeah, if you look behind me, actually, I have a Patrick Willis jersey right behind me in my basement here where I am. Yeah, I've always been a big Willis guy. I interviewed Hall of Fame voter. This was maybe 4 or 5 years ago, but I asked him, what makes Hall of Famer? Essentially, we were talking about it. And he said, if you're one of the best 1 or 2 players at your position in your era. So if you look at Patrick Willis, he was a 6-time All-Pro, 5-time first-team All-Pro, 7-time Pro Bowler in 8 seasons. And that tells me he was one of the best 1 or 2 players of his era. And again, this has been the theme of everything I've said. You may not look at a stat sheet and say, oh, he doesn't have 15 sacks, he doesn't have 10 interceptions because he's a middle linebacker. But if you watched him week in and week out, he dominated the game. He took away the middle of the field and he flew sideline to sideline. So it's long overdue for him. He's a great guy. I'm happy for him. And he's one of the, if you're a Niners fan, any Niners fan will tell you, one, they're huge Patrick Willis fans, and he's a for sure Hall of Famer. So I'm glad to see he got it.
Last moment or two with our good friend Al Sacco, co-host of the 49ers Red Zone No Huddle Podcast, right here on Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. Sid Lakina hang out here with you, previewing Super Bowl 58 between the 49ers and Chiefs. We'll go away from the game, Al, just for a second. This is my last question for you. Also, I saw in your bio, I almost forgot about this, but you were a former host at KMBR, legendary San Francisco sports station. How did you get started in your career, and what led you to doing this 49ers exclusive podcast now?
Oh, man. So, yeah, I just kind of started out. This was always a part-time job for me. So I just kind of sent in something. It was 49ers Web Zone. They were looking for writers, and I sent something in, not thinking anything about it, and started kind of writing for them. And it sort of just, I kept getting offers from different places and just did this and did that and would write for different websites. We started the podcast in 2017, again, thinking nobody was going to listen to it. But it kind of ended up taking off, and we were getting a lot of guests that, like, you kind of pinch yourself, like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm talking to this person. Did that for a couple of years, and then I said, all right, I want to kind of try to do something else. And I was with KMBR for the 2019 season. I wrote for them on their website. And then after that was over that year, decided to go back to the show, and we ended up signing with Odyssey. So we've been with Odyssey for the past few years, and we work for Odyssey Sports and have been doing that. So it's a lot of fun. It's a side gig for me, but it's something I've been able to cover games and meet a lot of people and do shows like yours and be a guest on things. And it's been great. It's been a great ride, and I'll just do it for as long as I can, I guess.
No, absolutely. Of course. All right. All right. Now's the big moment. Okay. Of course, obviously, I'm sure you're going to pick the 49ers. Okay. So what's the score, and who do you think will win MVP?
I think the score is going to be in the mid to low 20s, 23-20, 24-21, that type of thing. MVP, I said he's going to get all the carries. I'm going to say Christian McCaffrey. I'm going to say McCaffrey gets a couple touchdowns, the Niners squeak it out, and McCaffrey ends up with MVP.
All right, that's been Al Sacco, the co-host of the 49ers Red Zone No Huddle Podcast. You can catch that podcast wherever you get your podcast, as he mentioned, part of the Odyssey Sports Network. And you can watch it for free right here on YouTube. Just type in 49ers Red Zone No Huddle Podcast. You can catch it right there. Al, thank you so much. Thank you very much for joining us today. A great job. Enjoyed the game. And we can't wait to have you on next year, because I believe our Chicago Bears will be playing the 49ers next season. So even if they don't, I think they do, but even if they don't, we'll have you on this program again next year for our NFL preseason preview for the NFC West Division. So great
Anytime.
job.
Absolutely.
Yeah, great job. Keep up the great work. We'll have you on again starting next year.
Thank you so much. Nice to talk to you.
All right. Thank you. Take care.
Thanks, Al.
All right.
That was Al. All right, that was Al Sacco from the No Huddle podcast for the 49ers. So we still got a few more minutes left. So do you want to talk about the Hall of Fame, or do you want to do our keys to the game?
We'll do a quick deep dive into the game. I believe that this game is going to come down to the running backs, Isaiah Pacheco for Kansas City and Christian McCaffrey for the 49ers. As we mentioned during our interview with Al, Isaiah Pacheco has come on these last 2 or 3 games. You saw what he did against Baltimore. You may not have all the yards, but he had the important runs. He had that 1 touchdown in the AFC title game. But you saw what he did against Buffalo the week before, and he really carried the day for that Kansas City Chiefs offense. That's the way Kansas City's been doing it all year, as we mentioned, with the young wide receivers and Travis Kelce having his ups and downs. But on the flip side for San Francisco, we saw what Christian McCaffrey, what the value he brought to the 49ers last year. Of course, Brock Purdy goes down the NFC title game at San Francisco. Everything's leaning on Christian McCaffrey. Philadelphia stops, and there goes that. But this year, with most of their weapons being healthy, that makes Christian McCaffrey that much dangerous. And so I think it's going to come down to the running backs. The 49ers, like we talked about the last 2 playoff games with Detroit and Green Bay, they were down early and they came back. You can't, even though Kansas City is vulnerable, you cannot afford to go down 20 points against this Kansas City Chiefs team, because they've been running that defense with Chris Jones all year. And if Brock Purdy gets out to a rough start and they trail by 20 points, I don't believe San Francisco's coming back. No way.
I think for me, it's going to be the run defense. I think which defense can slow down that, because both teams have struggled. Al said it. Both, we know the 49ers had their struggles with the run defense. So those are the Chiefs. So that's why I was a little bit surprised that the Ravens abandoned that against them in the AFC Championship game a couple of weeks ago. So, and the great thing about it is that the 49ers have pretty much a little bit of everybody that can kind of like confuse you. Like, okay, you want McCaffrey, okay, fine. You want to use Debo, fine. If you want to use Elijah Mitchell, fine. They got guys they can play around with. So I think if you confuse, I think that the key is going to be moving the ball and moving the chains if you're the 49ers. Keep Mahomes in the offense off the field. Keep it going. Keep the chains moving, and try to kind of wear out Chris Jones, Willie Gay, and the rest of that. Nick Boyd and the rest of that Chiefs defense, excuse me. And on the flip side for the Chiefs, the same thing. I mean, it's going to be hard to try to slow down Christian McCaffrey, force Purdy to throw the ball. Try to kind of make him rattle him and have him make mistakes. Because I think, for me, I think it's really going to be the secondary. I think Charvarius Ward, of course, like I said, he was on the other side of that of the ball with the Chiefs. A few years ago. I think he's going to be the key. And I would be surprised if Brandon Ayuk. I mean, listen, we usually have guys that come out of nowhere to become big factors, and I think guys like Brandon Ayuk, like I said, Juwan Jennings might have a big look. We saw him make big plays when he was at Tennessee. We see him make some big catches. So I would be surprised if he makes one here. And and I think maybe a Justin Watson, perhaps maybe for the Chiefs, a Valdez Scantling, perhaps. I mean, I think it's really going to. The key is going to be really going to be the unsung hero. I feel like I think this Super Bowl kind of sets up for that.
Yeah, like we mentioned about the stars of both teams. Like you said, it always comes down to who's going to make that big mistake, who's going to be that unsung hero that we're not talking about right now that can make the big play. But I think it could happen on. I think it could happen on offensively, Keenan. But getting the sense of what I think we're going to see with the running games for both teams, I think that unsung hero will come from the defensive side. Will it come from the 49ers or will it come from the Chiefs?
Look, we like I said, we usually have these guys coming out of nowhere, so we'll see what happens. As of course, we gotta go take a really quick break. Of course, we'll talk more Super Bowl. Let's talk about prop bets, including Taylor Swift sightings and Usher's first Usher's first song is gonna be, and all that other stuff, and also of course talk about the Hall of Fame. We talked about Patrick Willis. We'll talk about the rest of them, the rest of the new 2024 Pro Football class led by Willis and Devin Hester and Mongo and the rest of that group. We'll talk more about that. So we got more football coming up next. The Keenan McGee, City Brown, Sacco City Sports on Sports of Chicago. More gridiron talk coming up right after this.
This year, my mom got me the perfect bag for back to school.
These colorful binders help me stay organized.
These headphones are just what I need for studying.
These new sneakers are just what I needed for the new year.
This jacket is a real must-have.
My parents got me the skateboard I wanted. It's pretty cool.
These scissors really come in handy in art class.
These colored pencils too. These new socks, they can be a real lifesaver.
And I finally got my own phone to stay in touch with my mom.
Trisha's having a sleepover tonight. Can I go?
I wonder about Lucy's friends. What should I say? I know you're only 10, but one of these days a friend will offer you a drink. And alcohol at your age can lead to so many things. None of them good.
So can I go to the sleepover?
Lucy, I want you to promise me
I
something.
finished my homework.
Bigger promise. If there's any drinking, I want you to say, "No thanks, not my thing."
Mom.
I promise you. Your real friends won't care. Deal?
Sure.
Really?
I promise, Mom.
They really do hear you.
Did you pack your toothbrush?
For tips on how to start the talk, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. A public service message from the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration.
Hey, this is Dr. J, and I listen to Sean and Maya in the morning.
Welcome back to Second City Sports and the Hashtag Football Friday edition, our last one for this NFL season. We're live in the living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. She is Lakina McGee. I am Sid the Kid. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You follow my Keenan McGee on the Twitter, X, I can't go again, the IG.
This is our last break of the show for today and for the week. So if you have any more questions or comments for us, you can always find us at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions or comments in the comment section. Lakina will get them up on the screen for you.
Okay, so let's do some of these Super Bowl prop bets because I think some of these are just flat out hilarious, hilarious. Well, let's start with like the national anthem, of course. Multiple Grammy winner, country music legend, and great actress Rhea McEntire will be doing the national anthem for the Super Bowl over in Vegas. The over under is 87 seconds. I think the over under is like 90, but it's gone up to like 87 and a half. Do you take the over on the under? Because if you listen to Rhea McEntire, she's not gonna like hold. Well, I think she'll go straight through. Maybe do a little bit, a little higher here and there. So I think I would take the under on that one.
I would agree. I'll take the under.
All right. Let's see what else here. Who will score first? I think I'm seeing that I think Kelsey, I think is like the tops person there at like minus, I think it's like 110 or something like that. And then I think like a few others you had I think Debo, I saw McCaffrey's up there too. I think second they had Debo and Pacheco and the rest of them. So who do you think will have the first who will score the first TD? I think they didn't say first score. They tried to be slick. So they said first touchdown.
I'm going to go with our theme here that we talked about in our last segment. Unsung hero, their fullback for the 49ers, Justin Schwartzek. I'll go with him and he would be the first one to score for the 49ers.
Oh,
now, that's out of the box for you.
Well, here's another one for you. They got the first interception of the game. They got Mike Edwards, of course, former Bear, Tashawn Gibson, L'Jarius Sneed, Dominic Lenore, Jair Brown, and Shavarius Ward at plus 1,800. Who will have the first interception of the game?
Ooh, that's a good one.
Yeah, shout out to the Gambit here. I got this from the USA Today Sports. So this is
shout out to them. I'm gonna go with the former Bear Gibson.
Oh, okay, yeah, I probably would take that bet. And of course, Heads is leading the way with plus minus 105, and of course Tails is plus 105. Well, minus 105, I should say. So they got those little minuscule type of bets there. Another one here. Let's see, what's another good one here that we can that I can kind of like show you here. Will Mahomes throw an interception? Yes or no? Yes is at minus 130. No is at plus 100.
I'll say yes.
And they got just the reverse for Purdy, plus 100 for yes, and minus 135 for no. Do you think Purdy will throw an interception?
I'm going to surprise y'all, say no.
I would agree. I think they may use a running game more than anything, so they may not need to depend on Purdy's arm too much there. Let's see here. Anytime Christian McCaffrey touchdown, yes at 220.
Oh yeah, that's the easy one. Yes.
Nick Bosa, we didn't talk about him too much on our conversation with Al a few minutes ago. Will you have 2 or more sacks? Yes at plus 350.
I'll say no. If he gets a sack, obviously it'll be 1, but he's not going to get 2.
Okay. 11 or more receptions for Travis Kelce, plus 550.
11 receptions or more. I will go with no. He'll probably have about between 6 and 8. So I'll say no.
Okay.
Get that many.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Well, the first play from scrimmage was on the first down. Plus 340 or minus 150, minus 500 for no.
One more time.
Sorry, I stumbled there. 340 plus 340 for yes, or minus 500 for no.
I'll say yes.
Okay. Let's see here. I'm trying to think. First team to attempt the coach's challenge. Minus 115. Well, actually, both are minus 115. So, which coach will it be? Coach Shanahan or Coach Andy Reid?
It'll probably be Coach Shanahan.
Okay. Let's see here. I'm trying to find ones that are actually seen a little bit decent. I guess the over under is like 5 for Taylor Swift cutaways. So was it like plus 200? Like five or less is like plus 200. I think like over 400 is like 6 or more. So I've seen some of the other prop bets for that one.
I think I'll be the obvious one. I'll say 6 or more, especially if the Chiefs are winning. You know they're going to win the game. It's going to be more than 5. I promise you that.
Oh, goodness. All right. Now, going to the halftime show, of course, Usher is doing the halftime show. I'm looking at this one from the Athletic, from courtesy of Bovada. The first song that Usher will sing on his halftime performance. And
I think. Well, go ahead.
No. You guess, and I'll tell you what the odds.
I'll give you a quick story after I give you my answer. I think he'll open up with the song that he did with Ludacris and Little John. I think he'll open up with that. Whether you're an Usher fan or not, most people have heard that song before. So I think he'll open up with that.
Yeah, plus 700 for that one, which is a little high, but I think you might save that one for last. I think that's my kind of like prediction there, because the song was number 1 on the Hot 100 for like 12 weeks or so.
Mm-hmm.
So I know he said he wants to do like our R&B theme, but you got to go with a hit that made you even more famous. So you got to finish up with it. Yeah, so I think he'll finish up with that one. My Way is actually the favorite at minus 120.
Quick story. Remember the 2012 Super Bowl between the 49ers and Ravens, the one that the lights went out? Remember that Beyonce performed at halftime, which no one knew at the time. It was a reunion concert for Destiny's Child. Kelly and what's her face? Michelle Williams both appeared. Mm-hmm. One of my childhood buddies, I was at his house, and we had a $5 bet on which song would Beyonce will open up with first. Your boy chose Crazy in Love. I turned a $5 bet and won $35 thanks to you, boy.
Nice. Good. Nicely done. All right. So so if I think My Way is kind of like the odds on favor there, but some of the other, like I said, Yaz at plus 700. I think people think that's a long shot to that one. This is from BetGM. OMG's at plus 175, and Love in This Club plus 700 as well. And DJ Gaga is Falling in Love, that's plus 1100. So that part of it, I'm sure he's gonna have some new music too as well. But that's what some of the songs there. This occurs at BetGM.
I'm really looking forward to this halftime show. Of course, nothing has been said on which guest stars is going to appear on there, but I'm really looking forward to this show. Of course, both of us are at the age that we remember him starting when he was 14, 15 years old in the mid-90s with his first album, his second album, My Way, which really went mainstream. And then, of course, his career took off from there. Of course, we mentioned the song. I believe it came out in 2003, with the Ludacris and Little John. That brought him in and brought him with a new generation of fans that are younger than us. And so that's kept him going. You mentioned all the other songs that follow afterwards. So Usher's been doing it for close to 30 years. So I'm really looking forward to what he has in store.
I remember Usher when he first appeared on Star Search back in the late 90s. And I remember Evan Mann in an old interview. This was from many years ago, but he said that look, if he kind of shapes up, loses a little bit, because he had kind of that baby face, a little bit of the baby fat at the time. So, and Ed, Mr. McMahon said if he loses that, he can become a big star. And well, you know what? I know Ed's looking down, saying, he was right. So, I'm looking forward to this too. I think, look, he's got the catalog. We said when it was first announced. So. I think this will definitely be one of those things where I think, we'll see how it kind of transpires. Of course, everything's kind of top secret. I'm sure we'll see Little John and Ludacris, of course, and I'm sure. I know there are some people that said that. I know there was somebody else that said they probably thought might make an appearance, but I'm looking forward to see how this goes. I know some people said maybe Taylor Swift might sneak up in there. Like, why would he do that?
I don't see it. That's just me. I don't see it.
Yeah, that seems a little silly that he would do that, but people are pushing it, whatever. But I think this is gonna be a good one. I think this might be one of the more memorable ones. But look, we all know probably the most memorable one was the one in Miami, in rainy Miami, the late Prince. Nothing will top that. I'm sorry, that Super Bowl halftime show. He did it in the rain, mind you. Nothing will top that one. Of course, Michael Jackson, of course, back in the mid '80s. But those are probably the ones that that might be the tops for me. But I don't know about you, but yeah, I think that's one of my favorite Super Bowl halftime shows. We'll see if last year was actually pretty good. Of course, the year before that was solid as well. I think we'll see if this one kind of tops those.
I think it will. I remember that one with Michael Jackson. That was the January of '93. That was the '92 Dallas Cowboys. That's when they played the Buffalo Bills the first time in Pasadena. Of course, that was legendary in itself. Of course, Prince's performance during that Bears-Colts Super Bowl. I heard someone say this once. I think I said it here on this show before. Prince's halftime performance was better than the Bears' second half. I'm just saying.
Right. Yeah.
The Bears only scored 3 points after that, so I'm not blaming Prince. I'm blaming the Bears for stinking it up in that second half. But Prince's halftime show was amazing. Remember, he had the Florida FMU, the Story Black College band performing with him. So that was awesome.
That was definitely probably one of the better ones. So, and they did it in the rain too. So yeah, I don't know how they were able to carry all that stuff in the rain, but the drum majors, but the percussion guys, and but yeah, they were able to. I commend them for that. I'm sure they all had to dry off really well afterwards. Of course, Prince did too. Right. So, anything else, of course, before we do our predictions?
Do they have on your list which color of Gatorade for the victor?
Yeah, let me get that up for you real quick. Purple is the favorite at plus 225. Then blue, then yellow, green, then red, pink, 450, orange, 500, and the clear at 1,000.
Let me go with the red, pink.
Ah, okay. Well, yeah, since the red, both teams have red. Okay, I get that. I always think you can never go wrong with a blue Gatorade, so you can never go wrong with that. So I'm sure someone will have maybe yellow or green Gatorade. I think I'll go with yellow and green. I think that might be you can never go wrong with that. So okay, interesting.
And one more, a couple more, but one more. This one since is on my mind. Odds for Super Bowl MVP.
I haven't looked. I haven't seen it. I'll see if I can get it from my sheet. But of course, you got the quarterbacks. Of course, that's But I'm sure McCaffrey's probably. Hold on, let me see if I can get that up. Get up here on the computer real quick, because I haven't seen it anywhere. But I'll take a look at it. I think the last non QB to win it was, I think we're all the way back to when Seattle won. Against Denver. So I'm wondering, could it be?
I think it was Michael Smith, who won that one.
Yep. Okay. So, so I'm wondering that too. I mean, will it be a QB? Will it be Christian McCaffrey? Could Debo maybe perhaps be one? So
he would not be a bad pick. I'm talking about Debo Samuel. He would not be a bad pick.
Not at all. So, okay, so I got this one up for the New York Times. Let me see.
Because I know that for Kansas City, Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, they'll be the favorites. But I think that for a long shot, Isaiah Pacheco could be a Super Bowl MVP candidate.
Yeah, they got 900 for a running back. Yeah, that's what Pacheco and McCaffrey. Plus 1,200 for Kelce. Plus 2,000 for Debo. That's what I'm looking at. I'm looking at that.
Debo's not a bad choice, especially if this game's going to be close, which I expect it to be. Like I said, he could make that big play.
I think it could be a pick six. I feel like somebody from the defense, like I said, I think if Ward might make a play, since the old irony of it, the fact that he was on the other side a few years ago when these two teams played each other. You got a lot of the principal guys that are still on there on both ends. Okay, here we go. Yay, thank you, Sports Geek. You got plus 120 for Mahomes, plus 225 for Purdy. This is MVP, folks. 450 for McCaffrey, 1,000 for Kelce, plus 2,000 we talked about, plus 2,500 for Pacheco, plus 5,000 for Rashee Rice, and plus 6,000 for George Kittle.
Forgot about George Kittle. I think for George Kittle, he'll probably have to score multiple touchdowns and have close to 10 catches. That's just me for him. I'm not saying it's impossible, but I think for George Kittle to win MVP, I think he'll have to have some wide receiver type numbers, like 8 to 10 catches and 2 touchdowns. And one of them has to turn out to be the game winner. That will definitely help him. But I think for Brock Purdy, Lakina, for Brock Purdy to win MVP, he has to have 0 turnovers, 3 touchdowns, and over 330 yards passing.
Mahomes already has one, so yeah. Of course, you're not gonna make if you do, but you're not gonna make any money with Mahomes. Like I said, I think it's time for a defensive guy. I would be
Do you think
surprised.
anyone from the Chiefs? I don't think Chris Jones will get it, but anybody else like Nick Bolton?
Maybe Bolton.
I think he should have gotten it last year, but
yeah, he probably should have. I know a lot of people. Well, I think it's the way they voted too, because remember, Aaron Donald could have won a couple years ago when the Rams won. So
right, I think Matthew Stafford got it or Cooper Kupp.
yeah, Stafford got it. Stafford got it.
Okay,
Stafford got it. Yeah, I think I said Bolton. Like I said, Bolton. You probably could say, like I said, we said it on the show after last year. Bolton probably should have won it last year. On the I think it's on the defensive side for, like I said, I think War, if he makes a big play, like a pick six, maybe Nick Bosa, he may need like maybe 3 sacks or something like that, which I don't think that's going to happen against Mahomes. Maybe Dre Greenlaw. I know we talked about him a little bit. Maybe Fred Warner. He might have a shot at MVP. So yeah, I think we see all these weird things that happen. We see the unsung hero that kind of come out of nowhere. So we'll be interested to see what happens.
All right, it's now time for our prediction. Oh, one more. I think this will be an easy prediction, and this will lead into our last subject of the day. Will Devin Hester's record of an opening kickoff return for a touchdown for the Super Bowl will be broken? I say no.
No.
All right, moving on.
No.
Moving on. What's your final score? And what's your final score? Obviously, who's your winner? Who's your MVP?
Okay. Okay. Don't take this at face value, folks. All right. I will say San Francisco 24-20, and well, I know I've been talking about perhaps maybe a pick six, but I think your Purdy's going to lead them down the field, and I think James is going to get that game-winning TD. I'm going to throw a curveball here. I think James is going to get the TD, and I think Purdy will win MVP.
Okay, I will go Kansas City 24, San Francisco 30. And my Super Bowl MVP will be, going out the box here, Brandon Ayuk.
And I think it's like a plus like 3,000. So if you pick Ayuk as your Super Bowl MVP, yeah, you might be making some money. Yeah, I can see that.
Let's go crazy, folks. Let's go crazy. Of course, you can watch the 58th edition of the NFL's championship game. They call it the Super Bowl this Sunday. The actual game time will start at 5:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. You can watch that game here in the United States on CBS.
Also, we stream on Paramount Plus. And remember, for all you guys with kids, they're actually going to have a alternate version with, of course, Noah Eagle and Nate Burleson. Nate Burleson's going to be a very busy man this weekend. It'll be on Nickelodeon, and I think it's going to stream. Both versions are going to stream on Paramount Plus. So take your pick, and they're already predicting it's going to be like the highest rated Super Bowl ever. So we'll see.
Yep, we will see. You're listening to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago City. Lakina here on our last #Football Friday of the NFL season. Lakina, let's close out the show with discussing the Pro Football Hall of Fame class of 2024. We will have 3 former Chicago Bears defenders. 2 of the 3 Chicago Bears, former Bears players, 2 of them are the defenders. They'll be joining the prestige class coming up, as you mentioned, later this summer.
Yes, they will. Let me get the list up here. Of course, Steve Mongo McMichael finally getting in. I know Christy, his wife's been very vocal about it. I think all the other guys have been too. That played on those 80s teams. Of course, Richard Dent's already in. He presented the news to Christy and Mongo. It's hard seeing him like that at this point. That was kind of tough, but couldn't help but tear up there. Also, we'll get to their individual accomplishments in a second, but among others, of course, Devin Hester finally got in. You probably say he should have got in a couple of years ago, but I digress. And of course, Julius Peppers, who made, I think, 6 All-Pros.
Yay!
Yeah, those are your former Bears there. Of course, you got Dwight Freeney, former Colts, won a Super Bowl against the Bears. Reddy Gradishir, who, for those of you who are not old enough to remember, he's part of that Orange Crush during with the Broncos through the 70s. Went to a couple of Super Bowls there. Of course, they lost both of them, unfortunately. But Gradishir, probably one of the best linebackers, from the first 50 years of the league. Also, too, you got Andre Johnson, the first Texan to make the Hall of Fame. Good for him. One of the best wide receivers. You probably say, outside of the ball. We talk about Patrick Willis, who with Al, probably one of the best premier linebackers in the league. Just a really great linebacker there, and that completes the list. Yeah, I got everybody. So what do you think about this class?
Yeah, it's a very interesting class. Congratulations to all the players that were selected. I'll start with the Bears first. Of course, Steve McMichael is tough what he's going through right now, health-wise, but it's been long overdue. Of course, we can name all the other Bears players from the '85 team that's in the Hall of Fame, but Steve McMichael was the anchor of the interior of that defense. We talk about Dan Hampton and Richard Dent on the outside as pass rushers. Steve McMichael, I believe it was top 5 of top 10 in career sacks when he retired after the 1994 season. Remember, he played in Green Bay for that 1 year, and then he retired. But he was top 10, I believe, in career sacks, top 5, top 10 at the time, which was 30 years ago. So he put up some great numbers. He spent the majority of his career in Chicago. He played for New England his rookie year, then, of course, played the bulk of his career with the Bears. Of course, he ended his career with Green Bay in 1994. So it was long overdue for him. Julius Peppers, I remember him playing college basketball like you did, Lakina, at North Carolina. He was a stud there. He could have been a heck of a basketball player, but he stuck with football. He had he had a great career. He went to the Super Bowl early in his career with the Carolina Panthers in 2003. They should have beat the Patriots, but your kicker, John Casey, decided to kick the ball out of bounds after they tied the game. He did a great boo-boo, but I digress. But and then he comes to Chicago. That Bears team in 2010 should have went to the Super Bowl, but Jerry Angelo and Lovie Smith did not prepare to pick a quality backup quarterback, even though after Jay Cutler got hurt in that game, but I digress from that. And then, of course, Peppers ends his career with the Green Bay Packers, almost helping that team get to the Super Bowl in 2014, but that NFC title game in Seattle during that year, which was not his fault. It was his teammates' fault. But Julius Peppers made a big impact wherever he went as a pass rusher. He wreaked havoc, and he really changed the game of pass rushes for the players during that era, especially now that we have quarterbacks playing at a mobile level. And, of course, Devin Hester, he is the greatest kick returner of all time next to Deion Sanders. Now he gets to join Deion Sanders in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Devin Hester made a mark from the word go. He was a rookie in 2006 when the Bears went to the Super Bowl. His very first game in Green Bay, he had a kick. I think it was a punt return for a touchdown.
Punt return. Yep.
Yeah. And as Bears radio voice Jeff Jr. calls him the Windy City Flyer, and he continued all throughout his career. Of course, I believe he ended his career with the Atlanta Falcons. I think he broke the record for most kickoff returns in a career in the Falcons uniform. He ended his career with Seattle. My brain reminded me of a couple years later. He got picked up for a couple of games there. But throughout the heart of his career, Devin Hester changed the game. He changed the game with his returns, with his presence on the field. And so, like, as you said, Lakini, he should have been in a couple of years ago, but I'm glad that he's in there now.
Yeah, if you go outside of the Bears, like I said, Randy Granishir, like I said, part of that great Orange Crush defense for Denver in the 70s, and with the 7 Pro Bowls, I mean, probably one of the best linebackers in the inside. He was the center of that. So a really great linebacker. I've seen some clips of him from back in the day, and those Denver teams were actually really good. He was a unanimous All-American at Ohio State all the way back 1973. I remember I saw him from clips there, those games against Michigan. So a really great defensive unit. I think they're finally getting their due. That's great to see. Andre Johnson, probably one of the maybe the top wide receivers. Did it for only a short time, but even still, he surpassed 1,000 receiving yards 7 times. That's unheard of, especially back then in the early aughts. And I
don't think he even played a playoff game, did he?
I think maybe played only one playoff game. If I'm not, maybe no, you know what? No, yeah, I think he played like a one playoff game. That was like later in his career. But yeah, I mean, it was just astonishing that the stats that he did in such a short time. First player elected, for the Texans, so that's a big, get for that franchise. He still is a franchise leader in most receiving yards, even still. So we'll see if CJ Stroud kind of helps one of his receiving guys out for that one. Of course, Dwight Freeney, one of the another defensive end, also he played on the outside linebacking as well. Of course, was a big part of that Super Bowl winning Colts team back in 51. Sorry, folks. Sorry, Bears fans. But yeah, I mean, he has 125 and a half total sacks, 148 quarterback hits, 138 tackles for loss. That's probably among the most ever. 47 forced fumbles. That's that's NFL, that third all time. Tied for third all time. Probably one of the best interior defensive ends ever. And of course, we talked about it without earlier. Patrick Willis, another linebacker.
Mm-hmm.
Just a great career. He started right away at San Francisco. He won the Buckets Award in the second year. Just an amazing talent. Had 10 tackles during that Super Bowl before he lost to Baltimore. Was one of the reasons why they even got that far. I'm talking about the 49ers guy that year. He was named to the NFL All-Decades team in the 20 teens. So a really great list of guys. And I'm a little bit surprised that Torrey Holt didn't make the list, nor Antonio Gates. I mean, I would have thought Gates would have gotten in first ballot, but who would you take out on this list? So I don't know who would you have taken out here, but
I was going to say if Andre Johnson did not play a playoff game, not saying his numbers weren't great, but if you did not play a playoff game, that should make a bigger case for Brandon Marshall getting in. But we'll say that arguments are from the Brandon Marshall side for another day. But if you those couple of names you just mentioned, I will put in Torrey Holt and make Andre Johnson wait a couple more years.
Because I think Holt was probably if anybody, I think Holt should probably got in before Isaac Bruce. And I'm sure if you ask Bruce, he'll even tell you that. So, yeah, I'm a little surprised that Gates didn't get in first ballot. I would have think he would have gotten in for sure, but I mean,
hopefully he'll get in next year.
Maybe
because he came in, he was after the prototypes of the Shannon Sharps and the Tony Gonzalez's and those guys making those tight ends, wide receivers, that position being glorified as being a weapon as the NFL turned the page into the new century of using those tight ends in the offensive league that we now see today.
Yeah, definitely changed the perspective of the tight ends. He was definitely he and Gonzalez both. So I'm sure he'll get in. I'm sure he'll get in next year. I definitely think he will. Jared Allen also didn't get in. I think he probably will have to wait maybe a couple more years. So we'll see what happens there. Now, do you want to know who's going to be first time eligible next year?
Yes.
All right. Some of the names: Eli Manning.
He'll probably get in first ballot only because of his last name.
Well, wait a minute. I think. Well, wait a minute now. I think he might look. He holds a lot of the records for among the franchise among the Giants. 2 Super Bowl wins. He helped perhaps derail the Patriots from getting a defeat. Let's give him a little bit of credit
because his last name. That's why he's going to get in first ballot.
Oh, first ballot. Well,
yeah.
We'll see. Luke Kuechly. I mean, do you think
he's going to have to wait?
Yeah, I don't think he did it long enough. I think he was great for those Carolina teams, but I just he didn't do it long enough in my opinion. All right, this is where it gets interesting. Adam Vinatieri, you think he gets in the first ballot? Probably not, because they usually make the special teams guys.
Yeah, that's what I say. He should be in, but like I said, they treat special teamers like crap. So you saw what they did to Devin Hester. So Adam Vinatieri, I'm sorry, he's a Hall of Famer, but he's going to have to wait a bit.
Terrell Suggs,
he's going to have to wait a couple of years.
All right. Marshall Yanda?
No.
Okay, another interesting one here. Marshawn Lynch.
If they bring him in, he's not going to say much.
He might say, thank you and good night. Bye.
Exactly.
He actually has become some of a media darling, so he might. Well, I don't, maybe not.
He's appeared in a few commercials, so and like I said, people like him, but I don't know if the media is gonna vote him in. That's the thing.
Yeah.
People love him, but some of the media don't like him.
Yeah, that's gonna be the thing. Earl Thomas.
He's gonna have to wait.
All right, another interesting one here. A couple of ones coming up. Joe Staley.
Ooh, I think he'll get in, but he'll probably have to wait a year, maybe 2.
All right, the late Demaryius Thomas.
Probably because of his situation, he'll get in right away. If he doesn't get in next year, he'll probably get in the year after.
All right, Aqib Talib.
No.
Mm-hmm. Okay, another interesting one here. Mr. Vernon Davis.
Well, Mike Singletary was there to kick him off the stage. I won winners.
Oh Lord! Like they'll do a little sweeper here to get him off the stage. I guess.
Didn't give him credit. He's like, I needed that. It helped turn my NFL career around. So to be fair on that, so I think Vernon Davis is going to have to wait.
Darren Sproles.
He's going to have to wait too. I know you have to pick a couple of people, but most of them probably won't get in that first year. Like I say, except for Eli Manning.
Yeah, last but not least, Cam Wake.
He's going to have to wait.
All right. A couple of interesting names there for various reasons. So, it'll be interesting to see who gets in next year. But, oh, gosh. Anything else before we disperse it?
Were there any surprises to you from the NFL honors ceremony on Thursday? I didn't think so. Lamar Jackson picks up MVP. Joe Flacco of the Cleveland Browns wins Comeback Player of the Year. CJ Stroud, Offensive Rookie of the Year. I think Christian McCaffrey was Offensive Player of the Year.
Yep.
And I think Kevin Stefanski picked up Coach of the Year of the Cleveland Browns, which I said to a couple of people on this show, which it was going to happen because you got to the playoffs winning with 4 quarterbacks, each of them winning at least one game or more.
Yeah, and I'm not surprised by that. It was really a close one between him and I'm talking about Stefanski and D'Amico Ryans. I just want to know who voted for Josh Allen, who gave him first place vote. I want to know who that person was. I really do. Seriously. He finished like in 5th or 6th, so yeah. Well, Lamar Jackson actually has a elite company. He is the 11th player in NFL history to win multiple MVP awards, joining guys like Peyton Manning, Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady, Jim Brown, Brett Favre, Johnny Unitas, Pat Mahomes, Joe Montana, Steve Young, and Kurt Warner. So not a bad list he's joined.
Not bad. Let's hope he get a Super Bowl before his career comes to an end.
Also, a special shout out to Cam Hayward, who won the Walter Payton Man of the Year. If you heard his speech, such a beautiful speech, of course. His late father was a one-time Bear, Craig Ironhead Hayward. I know he's still one of the reasons why he the charity that he chose is because of his dad and what he went through medically. So that was taking on the legacy there. So congrats to him and winning Man of the Year.
Yes, congrats. Real quickly, Keena, on Cameron Hayward's father, Craig Ironhead Haywood. I don't know if you remember watching HBO Inside the NFL back in the day when it was in its prime on HBO back in the day. I remember, I think it was one on the Bears. He was on the Bears. So I'm talking about Craig Haywood. And they did a feature story on him because remember also too, he was a feature back for a while with the Atlanta Falcons previously before he came to Chicago. He was during Dave Wannstedt's first year here in '93. And they did a story on him. He was really trying to lose the weight. And one of the I forgot who interviewed him. He said, I think it was the Bears that had the bye week off. He said, "What are you doing back here in the facility?" He said, "I'm getting a good workout and I'm trying to lose this weight." I was like, "That's dedication right there. If that isn't, I don't know what is." I was I had a totally different perspective on Craig Ironhead Hayward from there on.
Yeah, I remember he had that when he was at Pitt. When he went to college at Pitt, he was like that too. He had that work ethic. So so unfortunately, what happened to him medically. But Cam is living off his legacy. That has been a very very productive defensive end for the Steelers. Also, too, Will Anderson won Defensive Rookie of the Year, with C.J. Stroud, sweeping it for the Texans. Second straight year a team's done that. Also, Myles Garrett won Defensive Player of the Year. I know some people were saying T.J. Watt, so it was a close vote from what I saw. So, yeah. I'm not too upset about Myles Garrett winning. I mean, I think, numbers wise, I think that was probably kind of what helped him. But I'm fine with all the winners.
All right. Any special plans for the big game, Lakina, or you just go watch quietly with the family?
Just watch quietly. I mean, I haven't done the whole party thing in a couple of years because of COVID. So I'm keeping myself distance from everybody. And plus, with it still being President's Day is not till next week. We'll talk about that on Monday. But I'm keeping it kind of like low key. What about you?
Yeah, same here. I might go somewhere. A couple of people I know invite me, but outside that, I'll keep it quiet. So enjoy the peace and quiet of a Super Bowl. All right, Lakina, let's close this thing out and take us home.
All right, you can follow that Keena McGee on the Twitter, X, and Keena Scrum, and the IG.
You can follow your Shirley Sydney Brown on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. SIDKID80. Make sure you download that Sports Zone Chicago app wherever you get your apps. Please follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms on Facebook, Twitter, X, Instagram, and YouTube. Please subscribe to our podcast. We are at War Media Podcast. That's WARR Media, PODCASTS. We are on all podcast platforms, including the iHeartRadio app. And while you're ready, give War Media a follow on all social media platforms at WARR Media. And thank you very much in advance for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
We'd like to thank Mr. Al Sacco from the co-host of the 49ers Red Zone No Huddle Podcast. You can check out that podcast wherever you get your podcast, or you can check it out for free right here on YouTube. Just type in that search engine box, 49ers Red Zone No Huddle Podcast, and you can catch Second City Sports live in their living color every Monday, every Friday from noon to 2 p.m. Central Standard Time right here on Sports Zone Chicago.
And while you're getting up for the big game, you can catch Sports Zone Chicago on anytime, anywhere on Roku TV. Just go to your Play Store, type in Roku TV, and if you got a Roku TV on whatever device you have, type in Sports Zone Chicago. You can catch our replays of our show, Sean and Maya, the Smoke Fellas, and a whole lot more. Catch Sports Zone Chicago, of course, anytime, anywhere on Roku TV.
And we will provide.
And of course, enjoy the game, everybody. Be safe. You are going to go to the parties. Keep it low key. Of course, enjoy all the sports. You got your NBA, college hoops. You got the Waste Management Open going on over there, not too far from Vegas, right there in Phoenix. So enjoy the game, everybody. And we'll have all the recaps for you right here on Monday. For Sid, I'm Lakia. This has been Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago, and we'll see you Monday.
49ers, holla!